All right, everybody, welcome to day number 14 of 5-minute leadership videos with yours truly, Staff Sergeant Lloyd, Justin, U.S. Army, and I'm excited to be with you all. Big shout out and thanks to everybody out there who's continuing to share and like the videos, helping us really impact our community. Now, every video from here forward assumes that you've made the decision that you're going to work in quadrant 2 and from a strategic perspective. And so what I want to talk to you today about disappointment. All right, everybody faces disappointment. It's the inevitable part of chasing your goals, the bumps and the stumbles along the way that will sometimes throw you off. And the big question is, how do I bounce back from that? Now, things that I observe in life teach me that disappointments happen when I have goals and I'm really close to the accomplishment of that goal, but I just established or received some kind of huge setback and I'm frustrated by it. In my own case, you may be observing my background and realizing this doesn't look the way it normally does. And it's because I found myself in the hospital and I had some plans and now I'm like questioning whether or not those plans are going to happen. And things get thrown into you at the last second and you're like, oh man, which way do I go? Well, in life, you'll have that same thing. Maybe you invested some money and at first you were making money and then the stock market took a huge jump or dive and you found yourself missing out. And now you're like, man, what do I do? Maybe you had invested in a relationship. You'd spent time building your network. You had cultivated a team that you knew would be successful. And then you looked up and found that either they weren't successful or that key members of your team decided to leave, forcing you back into a role that you hadn't been planning to be in because, you know, we were living in this whole quadrant 2 life. Maybe it's a education that you went after. You achieved a degree and expected to get some compensation from work or be able to acquire a job. And now you're like, what do I do? Because I'm disappointed. And so when we're disappointed, sometimes we're faced with guilt and we're faced with shame and we're faced with fear and we're faced with uncertainty and we're faced with insecurity. And honestly, it might make me want to crawl up in a corner and be afraid or never try again or hesitate to move. And why would I even strategically plan? Because you can't strategically plan for failure. We all generally tend to strategically plan for success. And so now I'm stuck. And so what I want to first encourage you to do is understand that disappointment is a normal part of life. If you try something, you will experience what we would assume to be called failure, but I would encourage you to be considering it as feedback. Not that you failed, but that you got feedback, that you didn't have enough skills, that you hadn't learned enough, that you needed to continue to grow. And so it's just your body or your mind or life's way of telling you, hey, keep going, get better. Now, oftentimes we tend to think in stark contrast, black and white. Sometimes you win, sometimes you can fill in the blank, but I'm not going to because I want to change your perspective and give you that sometimes you learn. Sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. So it's similar to this whole idea that I don't experience failure, but I experience feedback. But what's key about it is that I take from every single experience a lesson, a way of doing something better, a way of learning, a way of growing, a way of continuing to proceed along the path. So it's not that the path stopped. It's not that it ended. It's just a speed bump. It tells me, hey, I need to slow down. Or it's just a misstep. It says, hey, I need to make sure I'm more sure-footed. Or it's just a drip on my head, which tells me, hey, I'm not as waterproof as I thought I was. Whatever it is, it's an indication not to give up, not to quit, because I knew it was coming. That was inevitable. It's just the decision I have to make to keep going and learn from that lesson. Not every lesson do you learn from unless you make it a point to learn from it. And so when disappointment comes your way, when you find yourself in the hospital at an unexpected time of day, or you find yourself faced with different circumstances and situations, I don't want you to give up. I don't want you to quit. I don't want you to be surprised. I want you to know that this is a part of it. I want you to have inside of you the ability to bounce back. In the Army, we talk about resiliency all the time, the ability to bounce back. We say, hunt the good stuff, find the good things that you accomplish. And if you take the mindset of failure away and consider feedback, and you take the idea that you can only win or lose and consider that you can always win and learn, then you'll be successful at handling the disappointment that inevitably comes your way, so that you can always continue to grow and you won't be afraid because you're too talented, you're too creative, you're too purposed. The calling on your life is too great for you to sit there and quit because of some disappointment that some person or some circumstance or some situation put on you. Your community needs you to impact and to lead and to fight through your disappointment to be successful. Hashtag 24 and 24. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Have a good one.